You ever notice how some of the most genuinely confident people you know make these quiet choices? The kinds of choices that don't really scream for attention, but kind of whisper a really powerful story about what's going on inside? Okay, let's get into this because we're about to decode the psychology behind these subtle but super telling habits.
At first glance, you might think these are all just random personality quirks, right? But what if they're not? What if there's a single, powerful psychological thread that ties them all together? Well, that's the big question we're going to dig into today.
I mean, look at this list. On the surface, these four things seem totally unrelated. One's about your body, another's about parties, a third is about your online life, and the last one's about where you chill. But trust me, the link is absolutely fascinating.
And here it is. This is the key. The secret sauce that unlocks this whole puzzle is a really fundamental idea in psychology, where we get our sense of self-worth. It pretty much all boils down to one thing. Do you get it from the outside world, or do you build it from within? So first, you've got external validation. This thing is like the engine that powers so much of our modern world. It's that little rush you get from a like on a photo, a compliment from your boss, or a huge turnout for your party. It's all about looking outward for proof that you're doing okay, that you're good enough.
But then, on the flip side, you have internal validation. Now, this is a much quieter source of self-worth, but man, is it more stable. It's that ability to just know your own value, to feel content with who you are without needing anyone else to co-sign it.
And wow, when you see them side by side like this, the difference is just crystal clear, isn't it? One mindset is basically a constant performance. It's always seeking attention, always comparing. The other is a practice of self-awareness. It's seeking peace and control over your own life. This distinction, this is everything.
So let's see how this internal validation thing actually plays out in the real world. We'll start with the choices people make about their public identity. You know, how they show up and present themselves to everybody else.
All right, let's talk about tattoos. For a lot of people, they're an amazing form of self-expression. But for others, the decision to not get one is an equally powerful statement about who they are.
The key thing here is, it's not always about a fear of needles or anything like that. For a lot of people, it comes down to a really deep-seated desire for control over their own body. They just don't love the idea of a permanent decision they can't take back. To them, keeping their body as is, well, it's not a judgment on anyone else. It's about staying true to their own core self and holding on to that sense of personal autonomy.
And this same exact logic, this idea of managing your public self, it applies perfectly to social media. Just think about those friends you have who almost never post pictures of themselves. And this is just a brilliant illustration of that internal validation mindset. Choosing not to post usually isn't about being shy or having a boring life. Nope, it's a conscious, deliberate choice to protect their own mental peace. It's about stepping out of that endless comparison game that social media traps us in. They just don't need the likes to feel good about their experiences. And that's a serious act of self-confidence.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about the public self, but what about the private self? How does this mindset shape the way people find peace and recharge their batteries when nobody else is looking?
Think about birthdays. For so many of us, it's the one day of the year that's all about us. But what about those people who treat it, well, just like any other day? Turns out, that can be a profound sign of emotional maturity.
See, what's really happening is that they've kind of graduated past the need for that one single day of intense focus and attention. Their self-worth is stable, it's consistent, it doesn't depend on one big party. They find contentment in who they are every single day, and they tend to prefer quiet gratitude over a big, forced celebration. It's a huge sign of emotional control and self-sufficiency.
And that brings us to our final behavior, that simple, pure love of just staying home. Now, this goes way beyond just being an introvert. For people with strong internal validation, home serves a really critical psychological purpose.
Home is the ultimate controlled environment. It's a sanctuary from all the social pressures and expectations of the outside world. It's a space where they have total personal autonomy, where they're free to recharge their batteries and just be without having to perform for anyone. It's not about hiding, it's about freedom.
Now, of course, we gotta talk about balance. The sources are really clear on this. Too much time inside, too much isolation, that can absolutely lead to loneliness. So the real secret is enjoying that personal sanctuary without completely cutting yourself off from the world outside.
So when we pull all these pieces together, The tattoos, the social media, the quiet birthdays, the love of home. What do we really have? Well, we have a portrait of a person who has basically cultivated a kind of quiet superpower.
You see, these behaviors aren't random at all. They're built on a foundation of 3 incredibly powerful traits. First, a deep self-awareness, to know what you really want. Second, high emotional control, so you're not just swayed by what everyone else is doing. And third, intentional living, making conscious choices that actually line up with your inner values. And this right here is the biggest takeaway of all. This whole mindset, it's not about being cold or distant or antisocial. It's about being self-possessed. It's about owning your choices, owning your peace, and owning your sense of self so completely that you just don't need the world to give you a round of applause for it.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to kind of chew on. When you look at your own life, your own choices, ask yourself this. Is my sense of self-worth something I'm building so that other people can see it and admire it? Or is it something I'm building so that I can feel it, day in and day out? The answer might just tell you a lot.